During the next half hour, we'll talk with Cardinal Blase Cupich about the historic meeting in Rome on the protection of children. We'll hear from Bishop Joseph Perry on the progress of Father Augustus Tolton's cause for sainthood, and we'll take you to Holy Name Cathedral, where more than a dozen Archdiocese of Chicago youth choirs joined voices in the Chicago Choral Festival and Mass. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Hello, I'm Todd Williamson, Director of the Office for Divine Worship for the Archdiocese of Chicago. And I'm here in studio with Cardinal Blase Cupich. Cardinal, it's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
You have just recently returned from an historic meeting of bishops in Rome on the protection of children, a very significant event. Cardinal, what would you want our viewers to know about this meeting?
Well, I think you use the right word. It is historic. When you bring together 190 people from around the world representing each bishop's conference and also the superiors of religious communities, men and women, to be focused on the task of making sure the church is a safe place for children, for minors, you see that this is a dramatic step forward. There was real conversion that took place.
Really?
The headliners for me in making that transformation, that conversion possible, were the various victims that presented at the sessions themselves. They spoke to us from the heart of their own pain and injury, and I don't think that there was an individual in that aula, in that hall, that was not deeply moved by what they heard.
Well, and you heard from victims throughout the meetings, right?
Yes, we began the whole session on that first day, that Thursday, with victims from across the world. They were recorded ahead of time from different continents, different races and cultures, because the Holy Father wanted to make it clear that this is a global problem. It's global surely throughout the church, but also, as he mentioned in his closing remarks on Sunday, that we see the protection of children as something that's eroding throughout the world, especially with sex trafficking and all sorts of sex tourism that is going on in the world. And it is an issue in which the church needs to take a leadership and get its own house in order. That's why he wanted us to make sure that we all got it.
Yeah. What was the format of the meeting? Was it just discussion? Was it?
Yes, every day had testimony from victims like this video, but also personal testimony in which they would tell us their story. There were 3 presentations every day, and each of the days were organized around 3 themes. Responsibility, that is, bishops and superiors realizing that I personally have to be responsible. The second was accountability, that we together are responsible and accountable to each other and the people of God. And finally, that there is going to be transparency. We have to be honest and open about it in order for all of the church, in a synodal way, as the Pope has said, to come together and own this issue as something we all should participate in solving. So it really was something that gave a lot of food for thought for people. There were 3 speakers every day on each of those topics. And I presented on the second day on accountability, but the last speech was given by a very veteran reporter who was from Mexico and who spoke very candidly to the bishops and the cardinals about making sure that people do not blame the media or the press for what's happening, that they are the ones who brought it to our attention, and that we should work hand in hand with them in trying to protect children.
You use the word transformative often while you were over, and just a moment ago you used the word conversion. How so? How was the meeting transforming?
Well, I think that it was the first time that a lot of people had this much contact with victims. I have, over the 20 years as a bishop, met with scores of victims in the 3 dioceses that I've served. But as I said to one cardinal, when you have heard one story about a victim, you have heard one story.
Oh, wow.
Because each of them are quite unique,
Yeah.
and they were all very unique in there. But the highlight of all of that was at the Saturday evening penance service in the Sala Regia. And this was done in the Apostolic Palace. It was in the room where the Pope in the medieval ages met kings and princesses, where power was very much in evidence. And you could see it as well from the paintings on the walls about power and battles that took place. And here the Pope was saying on that evening that it is the abuse of power that is responsible for these kinds of crimes. And then there was a young man who spoke from the heart about how he was victimized. And then he very emotionally played the violin. And he's a concert quality violinist. And he was just quite extraordinary, and there wasn't a dry eye in the place. He was just so very moving.
Wow.
So not only did he speak verbally, but through his music.
Yeah. The meeting produced 4 action items.
Yes.
4 things that the bishops of the world that will have in their minds going forward. What are those 4?
Well, in fact,
items?
those are the first 4 that we have going forward. The first of all is that each country has to take responsibility for measures by which they enact safety programs and also accountability programs for bishops. There is going to be the development very soon of the norms from Vatican City State, which will provide a template for those. There will also be a handbook on behavior and also that helps bishops understand what their responsibilities are in caring for victims of what there's going to be, what is going to happen. Also going forward is the important role that bishops will have in a bishops' conference to make sure that they monitor how they're doing, and that we look for ways in which we are all going to hold each other responsible. So this is just the beginning, however, and the Holy Father has made it very clear that he has accepted the words of John Paul II from 2002 and made them his own. And that is that there cannot be any place in the priesthood for anyone who would harm a child, and that it is impossible to allow someone who has crossed that line to be able to be in public ministry. And so that is a commitment, of course, we've had made here in this Archdiocese, but also in the United States. And now this is a global urgency that we need to attend to.
They took definitive steps here then.
Yes.
The Pope issued an apostolic letter, like a loving mother.
Yes.
What's the focus of that?
Well, this was a letter that was designed to map out what would be the steps if a bishop mishandled these cases, but also if he misbehaved himself, but mostly about mishandling of cases. And what was unique about this is that one does not have to have some sort of evil intent or malicious fault involved, but if you're incompetent and you have not done reasonable things to protect people, reasonable things to protect minors, then there is a possibility that you are going to be dismissed from office.
Oh, wow.
And so the Pope is very clear about that. Now, of course, that was already in play in Chile. There were some bishops who resigned because of their poor handling of it. But it's very clear where we're going on this, and the Holy Father is dead serious about it.
Well, he has said there will be no efforts spared.
No effort spared. And he is the one, by the way, who signed off on all the speakers. So whatever you heard the speakers say, that's what he wanted said. So people should read those talks if they want to know the mind of the Pope.
They're available.
Yes, they're all available at pbc2019.org.
That's a Vatican website.
No, well, it's a special one that we created as the organizing group, the four of us who were asked to organize the meeting. That is Cardinal Gracious, Father Hans Zollner, Archbishop Scicluna, and myself. We put together this website as a way to keep the media informed, but also a way in which people then could download the talks afterwards if they wanted to, and see some of the video clips that were there. This was the first time that there's been a meeting of bishops and cardinals like this that's been open to the public. We got the Holy Father to agree to, and he was very open about this, live streaming the entire session.
So there were no closed sessions at all?
The only closed sessions were when victims spoke because of their identity.
Sure.
And then we had small group sessions, and those would be impossible to do. But yes, all the public sessions were available. All the talks were made available to the media. And this was the first.
Wow. Just the texts or the presentations
Both
themselves?
the video and the text.
And the the penance service?
Yes,
That too.
and the Mass.
Really?
It was all open and live streaming.
Oh my God. Well, we certainly urge viewers to take a look at that. What's the website again?
pbc2019.org.
All right.
And it's a website that will, has an evergreen quality in it, and that we'll keep updating it.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
Truly an historic meeting.
Yes.
And you played an important role in that, in the planning and the facilitation.
Well, I was pleased to do it. The Holy Father asked us to take on this task. We had, I think, since Thanksgiving to be able to pull it off. And it was, from my standpoint, a great step forward for the Church.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much for that report. I'm sure many people were eager to hear more about how it went.
Sure.
We are just on the verge of a brand new season of Lent. And here in the Archdiocese, one of the things that will be offered are recorded reflections that'll be updated and offered throughout the whole season.
Right.
In fact, the first one, a reflection on Ash Wednesday, was just recorded by Father Jamie Mueller, the director for the Young Adult Initiative.
Oh, great.
And we have it here. Let's take a look at it.
All right.
Remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Lent begins an ancient Christian tradition of 40 days of prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. If you've ever tried to make a Lenten or New Year's resolution, and if you're anything like me, within the first couple of days you've either failed or not kept it quite as strictly as you would have liked, and very disappointed, give it up. I think a temptation is to say, go big or go home, but in the Christian faith, something is always better than nothing. My advice this Lent is to start small, maybe just with 5 minutes of quiet, with smiling at someone during the day, leaving the creamer out of your coffee. Mother Teresa said, none of us can do great things, but we can all do small things with great love. My nieces and nephews often send me notes with just scribbles on them, but they mean the world to me. So too do our scribbles, our small acts of love mean the world to God.
We'll have reflections for every week during Lent on our website, as well as on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And they'll be in English, Spanish, and Polish. A great way for the Archdiocese to help people mark the journey of Lent. Cardinal, what would you hope for the people in the Archdiocese for this Lent?
Well, I think like any Lent, we have to keep in mind that it's an opportunity once again for us to be in touch with our own baptismal call.
Yes.
Especially as we see others coming forward for the initiation rites themselves. So in many ways, I always look at the catechumens and the candidates as kind of a mirror to see what's going on in their lives, to hear from them. And I would encourage people in the parishes who see these candidates and catechumens coming forward to maybe talk with them, to get to know them. Because I think it's an opportunity for us to keep fresh our own calling as we see their own conversion take place. Yeah. We're always called to conversion. There's ongoing conversion in the Christian life. So I think that we have right before us a catechism in the flesh.
Yeah.
in these people,
Yeah.
because they are coming into the church where conversion, transformation is taking place, and we should remember that we're on that same journey,
Yeah.
pilgrimage.
It's an opportunity to prepare for for renewal of baptism.
Right.
In many ways, we can say that the whole purpose of Lent is meant to take us to that one moment, right, where we stand as the body of Christ and renew the baptism which first claimed us.
But that's why the ritual on Easter Vigil has the baptism of the new catechumens first, and then us, because they are setting the point of reference for us, rather than our baptism in the past setting it for them. Our baptism renewal doesn't come before their baptism; it comes afterwards.
Excellent
and
point.
this is a way the church is saying that we need to have the freshness of that baptism in ourselves.
Nice, nice. Well, stick around, folks. We'll have an update on the cause for sainthood for Augustus Tolton, and we'll take you to Holy Name Cathedral for the Chicago Choral Festival and Mass. Back after a short break.
Good morning, welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Catholic Chicago is on the air. Tune to WNDZ 750 AM weekdays from 8 to 9 in the morning to be informed, inspired, and entertained. From what's going on at your parish to news from the Vatican, listen and learn or join the conversation. That's 750 AM weekdays at 8 AM or online at archchicago.org. Click on Radio TV. Be an informed Catholic. Listen to Catholic Chicago.
We'll be back after these messages, and again, do not touch that dial.
Chicago Catholic, in print or online, is your go-to source for news about the Catholic Church. In-depth coverage that stretches from Chicago to the Vatican. Thought-provoking articles, including columns from Cardinal Blase Cupich, photographs that inspire, reviews of movies, books, and TV columns. Go to chicagocatholic.com to subscribe. Be an informed Catholic. Subscribe to Chicago Catholic today.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago. I'm Todd Williamson here with Cardinal Cupich, and we have good news. The cause for sainthood for Father Augustus Tolton has taken another step forward. The postulator for the cause, Bishop Joseph Perry, gave a recent presentation to the staff here at the Quigley Center. Let's look at some of the highlights.
So after reviewing materials and conducting more research, a Vatican Council decides if the person lived a life of heroic virtue. And if it decides yes, then the person is called venerable. That's the stage that we are in currently. Last year, March of 2018, the Historical Commission in Rome had agreed with the Historical Commission here that the research was complete and done and thorough enough for our purposes. And all of that is subsumed into a smaller document that amounts to almost like a doctoral dissertation on a person's life. It's called a positio. And this is the positio on Father Tolton. It's mostly in Italian. Some parts of it is in English. But the cardinals and the archbishops assigned to the Congregation for Causes of Saints will take this to the Holy Father probably in summer. And if he agrees that the person has lived a life of heroic virtue, then the Holy Father will dub that individual venerable. After all that's done, we have a story. In other words, the positio is approved. Then we begin looking at alleged reports of possible miracles, which will move into the beatification and canonization stages. One miracle is needed, a sign from God that this person is really in heaven and not the other place. And then canonization asks for an additional one thereafter. So that slide says Tolton's legacy is still fresh and alive. He's always been in the memory of African American Catholics since those early days. And my own commentary on this, it's a unique opportunity for the Archdiocese, joined also with the Diocese of Springfield, where Quincy was, that he served for the first 3 years of his priesthood, and Jefferson City, Missouri. It's that area now where the farm, where they were slaves, is located. Having a saint so close to home and one who still speaks to Catholics and other Christians with his stamina, faith, perseverance despite huge odds against him, and his indiscriminate welcome to everyone regardless of race. And that's what the problem was back then. He tried to put people of different colors under the same roof, which was forbidden at that time in our society. And he suffered for it. White and black together was just unacceptable. That's why he turned out to be such a pioneer for faith community, church community. We hope to have his ruling on venerability made this summer, and then hopefully one of the two miracles will be chosen for his beatification. We have a new refashioned webpage that gives us all the latest happenings with the cause, including this last Monday, the news that the Theological Commission made their ruling. So it's moving along a little bit faster than we had suspected, but it's moving along. We have a cause.
I was at that presentation that Bishop Perry gave. Good news.
Yes, and
What
he's
is-
a strong advocate and
Yeah.
has helped us so much to move this forward.
Yeah. What is the significance of Father Tolton possibly being proclaimed a saint?
Well, it's of course important on a number of levels. The first one being the first African-American priest in this country, and one who had to overcome racial prejudice and difficulty, not only in society, even at times in the church, sadly. So I think it's an opportunity for us to be respectful and grateful for the witness of black Catholics in the Archdiocese. But also, here we claim him as one of our
Yeah.
priests. And it's an opportunity, I think, for us, as I mentioned earlier, to celebrate the many good things that our priests do each and every day. There were people who didn't recognize what Augustus Tolton did during his day, and the amount of good that was there. And of course, by putting him on the road to sainthood, what the church is saying is that God is reminding us about him, because when miracles take place, when there are things that happen through his intercession, it is an opportunity for us to hear the voice of God saying, hey, don't overlook this man, because there is something here that lies hidden that needs to come out and be proclaimed to the rooftops. So this whole experience will be an opportunity for us to see his story in a more ample way.
Well, certainly there is a Chicago connection to already proclaimed saints. Mother Cabrini is a good example. But as you said, the first time, Mother Cabrini wasn't, she served in Chicago. But this, if he's proclaimed a saint,
Right.
a Chicago priest.
Right, exactly. And that's really what's very key, to have somebody locally proclaimed as such. And it is, I think, a shot in the arm to the wonderful heritage of black Catholics, but also of our priests.
Yeah. You realize that the collapse that led to his death happened right outside the Meyer Center where our offices are.
Right, exactly. And that it's holy ground,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes.
It's holy ground that's there. And I think that we do claim him as our own son, and proudly so.
That's fantastic. He's servant of God now.
Yes.
This summer will be determined whether or not he will be proclaimed blessed.
Venerable?
Venerable.
Venerable,
Okay.
yes.
And then the next step after that would
It'd be blessed, yes.
And then
there are a number of steps that do involve verification through miracles and other ways. But yes, the road is open now.
That's great. That's fantastic for Chicago and for the church.
Without question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our final story is about the Chicago Choral Festival and Mass at Holy Name Cathedral. The event was presented by the American Federation of Pueri Cantores and featured more than a dozen Archdiocese of Chicago youth choirs. Videographer Mike May caught up with Paul French, who's the choir director at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Parish here in Chicago, and he's the national president of Pueri Cantores.
Pueri Cantores is the student choral organization in the Catholic Church, and there are federations around the world, numbering some 40,000 young singers that sing in Pueri Cantores choirs. The German Federation is the largest, the American Federation is the second largest, and we've got some 400 Pueri Cantores choirs that sing in festivals. What we're doing here today is part of what happens in the United States, oftentimes in the fall and spring. This is the Archdiocese of Chicago's Regional Choral Festival. And we've got about 300 singers here from around the Archdiocese, but also some choirs have traveled here from Michigan and Ohio to be a part of what we're doing. We've got a wonderful guest conductor in Dr. Stephen Seigart from New York, and these children have spent all year preparing a choral repertoire to sing for this sacred liturgy. Pueri Cantores is about singing sacred choral music, but it goes even deeper than that. It really is about giving young people an experience of the treasures of the Church, the musical treasures of the Church, and essentially giving them a deeper language with which to praise God. And it really is not just about music, it's about catechesis. It allows young people the opportunity to grow deeper in their faith, have a closer relationship to the Church and to God, and it's all through this of singing great music, both timeless Gregorian chant and compositions of our day. Coming together, these children meet other singers from other schools and other parishes. They get to know each other, and they look around and they say, wow, it's not just my parish or my school that's doing this. It really is more of a universal kind of appeal and approach. And to have all of these children and all of their parents and teachers and principals and pastors coming together today here at Holy Name Cathedral is really a remarkable experience for everyone.
Wow. Moving gathering of youth choirs at the cathedral. It's a great organization.
It is, and you know, there's an innocence about young people that allows them to raise their voices in praise of God. Sometimes when we get older, we lose that and are hesitant to sing at Mass. Young people remind us that when Jesus says we should be like a little child, maybe he's telling us we should start singing again in the church.
Excellent. I would be behind that 100%. Well, Cardinal, as always, it's great to be with you. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your reflections.
Thanks
and
so much.
Happy Lent to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Todd Williamson. We'll see you next time on Catholic Chicago.
We invite you to watch segments of Catholic Chicago and hundreds of additional Catholic videos at youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter.